There's this little workbook in the back. It says, turning Agenda 21 into action is a big challenge for us all. Thousands of people at the United Nations and in governments are working on it. This booklet will show parents and educators how children can start to be a part of this work. Children are being indoctrinated through outcome-based education with a sense that they are a threat to the planet, and also with a sense that they can save the planet. It gives people a sense of power and entitlement, that they feel that they have so much individual power that they can destroy or save the planet. So here's the premise for all of this. The idea is that life in the suburbs and the rural areas is unsustainable, right? Because we produce too many greenhouse gases. It's that evil sprawl. And it costs too much to get public transportation out to you. And so that's the justification for moving us into dense city centers. Now, how are they doing that? They're using a group, a nonprofit, a non-governmental organization called ICLEI, and that is International Council for Local Environmental Initiatives. That's what they used to call it. Now they call it Local Governments for Sustainability, because we're waking up to it. We're recognizing that this is a group that was formed in 1990 at the UN in order to implement United Nations Agenda 21 worldwide. They say that they represent over 600 million people in 80 countries worldwide. They are a policy and legislation arm of United Nations Agenda 21, and their job is to monitor and measure your greenhouse gas emissions. Now, they also will change your policy. They suggest policy changes and statutes and controls and restrictions on your life. And these are all put into your master plan. Wolfeboro probably has a master plan. Most cities across the United States have a master plan, a comprehensive plan, a general plan. They're all the same thing. So you want to hear what cities in New Hampshire are members of the International Council on Local Environmental Initiatives? You've got Keene, Nashua, Portsmouth, Guilford, Plymouth, Rochester, and Wolfeboro. Most of the population of the United States is in an ICLEI city. New York City, Los Angeles, Chicago, San Francisco. These are all ICLEI cities. Now, when Obama was running for office last time, he committed the United States to reducing our greenhouse gas emissions by 80% below 1990 levels. 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050. That seems like a lot, doesn't it? 80% below 1990 levels by the year 2050? How do you get greenhouse gas emissions? You use energy, production, industry. So I said, when was the last time our country was emitting 80% of 1990 levels? So I got a chart, and I took 80% off 1990, and I looked at it. What year was that? What year do you think we were releasing 80% of 1990 levels? That's close. This thing is bugging me. 1934. 1934. Now, I know you know what a great year that was for our country, right? We were producing an awful lot. Things were going great here in the depths of the Depression. But when you think about it, we certainly have a lot more people now than we did in 1934. So if we're talking about a per capita reduction in our greenhouse gas emissions, we're looking more at 1880. So I guess we're going to go back to our horse and buggy days, except, of course, you can't have a horse because too many greenhouse gas emissions, right? Now, ICLEI, the International Council of Local Environmental Initiatives, they put together a book, and it's in your planning department. It's called Local Agenda 21 Planning Guide, an Introduction to Sustainable Development Planning. In this book, they tell planners how to run a visioning meeting, a Rand Corporation Delphi Technique mind control technique meeting on you, and who to bring into these meetings. Chances are you're not going to get into these meetings because they're not going to tell you they're having them. They might put a little note in your newspaper the day they're having the meeting. Who's in those meetings giving their opinion on the new plan for Wolfeboro? Stakeholders. We're talking about elected officials. Oh yeah, they're voting. The consultants who got paid to come up with a plan. Yeah, they're voting. The environmental groups who are invited. The nonprofits. Chances are you're not in there. And if you are in there, let's just say you're in there. Let's just say you stumble in, you find your way in, you walk past that big spread of food that they lay out there for you to thank you for showing up at this meeting. And you take your seat in that auditorium and you see that they are producing these slides to show you what you should like. Now, you don't want business as usual, do you? That's where you live. That's where you live in sprawl. No, you want planned future, which is high density development in the center of your town. Smart growth. Smart growth. What is it? It's ground floor retail, built right to the edge of the sidewalk, 12 feet high, with 1, 2, 3, or more stories of residential on top of that. Around the back in an alley, you've got parking access for 1 car or less per unit. Out in the front, you've got a bike lane. You got 1 lane for traffic or your bus or rail. Doesn't have to actually be there. Just the idea of bus or rail or transit is enough. Then you have your median strip and the same thing on the other side. Smart growth, transit villages, transit-oriented development does not pencil out. It is not financially viable. Oftentimes when you see these buildings, they'll be in the center of your town, they'll be empty, they'll be bankrupt. You look through the windows and you'll see dirt floors. You'll see, well, what will you see? You'll see those units upstairs, some of them are populated and others don't have anyone in them. We're looking at a development style. This is the preferred development style of Agenda 21. And it's often paid for with your tax dollars, with your subsidies, with your transportation tax dollars. Because remember, this is transit-oriented development. So what's the goal here? Oh, I forgot to tell you this. Check this out. You know that the United States did not ratify the Kyoto Treaty, but 1,055 United States mayors did agree to it. And what did they agree to? They agreed to anti-sprawl, smart growth, they support smart growth, carbon trading. This is the Mayor's Climate Protection Center. 1,055 mayors, every state in the United States. How about New Hampshire? You've got Concord, Dover, Hanover, Keene, Lebanon, Manchester, Nashua, Portsmouth, and Rochester signed on to this agreement, which is Kyoto. Now I thought, well, hey, I wonder what nation in the world that signed the Kyoto Treaty, I wonder which one reduced their greenhouse gas emissions the most. Can you think? Who reduced their greenhouse gas emissions the most in the world? Latvia. Little Latvia, clinging desperately to this edge of the former Soviet Union, is tiny Latvia. No heat in the winter, no cold in the summer. Concrete buildings, stacked way up. And guess what else Latvia is known for? Their human rights abuses. So you too can reduce your greenhouse gas emissions a whole lot. All you have to do is have total control of your energy and your people. No problem. So look, what's the goal? What is the goal? Using the green mask, I call it the greenhouse gas mask, of environmental concern, The two parts of Agenda 21 are imposed. And this is smart growth, which is moving people out of the rural and suburban areas and into dense urban city centers. And let me just say, for those of you who live here in Wolfeboro, New Hampshire, most of New Hampshire is sprawl. You live in sprawl. So the idea is to move you out of sprawl and into a densely packed city center. Now you might get to go to Concord on the interim, but then you'll be moved to a mega city later. So we're going to concentrate populations into dense city centers. If you don't believe me right now, you're thinking, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to show you how. Okay? The other part of this plan is the Wildlands Project. And that is moving people out of wildlands, off the land, out of the agricultural areas, out of the forest areas, out of the coastal areas, restricting access to our wilderness roads and resources, and closing off all of those lands, including moving people who have private property in federal and state parkland areas off of their lands, taking lands into public ownership. This is the plan, to transition private ownership of land to public ownership. So how are they doing it? I told you by 2002, Growing Smart legislative guidebook was in every single university, every planning department in the entire country. And that was when I, an appraiser, a government appraiser, tasked with appraising people's property so that it could be fairly compensated when the Department of Transportation needed to put a freeway through. I needed to know what people could do with their property. That was when I started to notice that there was a planning revolution going on in our country, that people were not able to use their land by right, that your zoning was irrelevant, that in fact you needed to get, well, what did you need? You needed probably a permit expediter, environmental impact reports, you needed to have your property reviewed. If you think that you can just go in and get a permit to develop, you can't. And I'm not talking about fat cat developers, I'm talking about people just like you, people who own that piece of land on the corner with a small shop on it, and you think you want to make it a little bit bigger, and you find out that no, you can't do that because it's not zoned commercial, even though it is. No, now it's transit village. And you have to build smart growth there. You're going to have to put residential. You're going to have mixed use with that. So the way this is imposed is the federal and state government take your transportation dollars, and they say, your transportation tax dollars, and they say, if your city or your county wants any of this transportation money, transportation tax money, they are going to have to agree to build smart growth. And they will build it in priority development areas. Now you're going to see this, it is imposed through your metropolitan planning organization. You might not know what that is. You need to know this. I don't mean to insult anyone, but you know what? I don't care who's dancing with your wife on TV. The reason this thing has happened to us is because we don't know about this. We're not paying attention, and we don't realize that the federal agencies that have changed their policies to bring them into alignment with Agenda 21 are imposing those policies on your state and local municipalities, and they're using money. They're using HUD grants, Department of Energy grants, transportation grants, and not just grants, but they're saying if you want access to any of these dollars, you will conform to these plans. Now, you're going to see it as sustainable community strategies. You'll see it as a granite state future. You got a HUD grant for $3.4 million for Sustainable Communities Initiative. It's a planning grant. This is a planning revolution. You'll see climate action plans, livable communities, transit-oriented development, transit villages, and complete streets. Plan New Hampshire. That's visioning for a sustainable community. Now, people, I actually am a liberal Democrat. My partner, I'm gay, my partner is a general contractor. She built a whole house, a 2-story house, out of recycled materials. I never buy anything new. We don't buy anything new. We don't even buy building materials new. This is not about conservation. That is the green mask. This is not about recycling your gray water. This is not about the way that it is being built, the way it is being sold to you as being sustainable. This is about a global plan of control that restricts you in where you can live and how you can live. So I want to show you something. This is the Marin County. This is the cover of the Marin County Master Plan, okay? This is, just like your master plan. Right inside, you recognize that? That's the logo for United Nations Agenda 21 Sustainable Development. And you will find this in many, many master plans. I haven't looked at your master plan, but you might want to take a look at it. You might not see the image, but you'll see social equity, the environment, and the economy together as the 3 pillars. You'll see it like that. You'll see the 3 E's. You'll see planet, people, profit. Think global, act local is a United Nations logo. You think that you don't, hey, you don't agree with me? I can prove this. So the thing is, it's hard to accept, especially if you're on the left. This is a tough one, because this is something you have been buying into, you've been believing, you think you're saving the planet, you're concerned, you're caring about your environment, you're being manipulated and propagandized. It's great if you want to live communally, if you want to if you want to do permaculture. This is not your religion. It should not be. If you find that you're being manipulated, it's your duty to your country to look carefully at what it is that's being sold to you. Look deeply at it and see what is behind it. Now, what's behind it is regional government. Regional government now is global governance tomorrow. This is the interim step. We have city, county, state, and federal, right? We all know that. You elect your representatives locally, county, and state, and federal. But we're looking at regional plans now. You're looking at Dover 2023. You're looking at Granite State Future. You're looking at one Bay Area. You're looking at 5 states, one vision. 6 counties, one vision. Our Florida, our future. 1 Michigan. 1 Northeast. These plans are all the same plan. These are regional plans that are being purchased by your city and county and state from consultants, and they're all the same plan. The Hanoi Center Regional Plan, Hanoi 2035, Hanoi, Vietnam, is the same plan as the San Francisco Bay Area plan. These are all the same plan. Regional plans. The thing that you have with regional plans, with a regional board, is it's not elected. It might be made up of elected officials, but you have no impact on that board. Neither does your elected official who sits on that board. You might have 142 counties on that regional board, and your person from your county is just one person on that board. You don't like what that regional board's doing? How are you going to influence it? You don't even know it exists. It meets in one state now, and next week or next month it meets in another. If you want to remove your representative from that board and you vote him out, well, so what? There's still 140 other people on that board. These regional plan boards are making law because they are influencing your local municipalities. And then your local municipality ends up rubber stamping these rules because the municipality does not have access to the money in any other way but through the regional board. These are your regional planning commissions, your metropolitan organizations, your metropolitan planning organizations. That's what they are. So here's the deal. It's called new urbanism, and it's anti-rural. Smart growth is not just a design style, it's an ideology. It's not just that building, that transit village, where you thought you lived in a town, but actually you live in a transit village. It is an ideology. It's a philosophy that says that people should not be out in the rural areas because they are destroying the planet. They are using up nature. But that itself is the green mask. It gets worse than this. You thought you had 50 states, but we have 11 megaregions here in the United States. 11 megaregions. And that's not just that they took the country and chopped it up into 11 pieces. These are specific mega cities that are considered to be the power regions, the power centers of the country. It's only 26% of the physical area of the United States, but it includes 74% of the population. The other 74% of the country is in the wildlands. So you here in New Hampshire, you're part of the Northeast megaregion. This is a project, you'll see this on America2050.org. America2050.org. This is a project of the Regional Plan Association. So New Hampshire is a part of the Northeastern megaregion, and that is Northern Virginia all the way to Southern Maine, and from the Appalachians all the way to the Atlantic. Part or all, part, think about this, breaking jurisdictional boundaries. It's part or all of 11 states: Virginia, Maryland, Delaware, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Maine, and New Hampshire are part of the Northeast megaregion. Now, I know you'll be interested to hear that the Northwest megaregion is called Cascadia, and it includes part of Oregon, part of Washington, and part of Canada. The Southern California megaregion includes part of Mexico. This breaks jurisdictional boundaries, and it is breaking national boundaries, sovereign boundaries. Now, this is being sold to you as an economic driver. You're told that, hey, we just can't compete economically unless we join together in this megaregion. In your megaregion, you have 50 million people, 142 counties, hundreds, literally hundreds of cities. When they get together, they need a room like this. What kind of influence is your locale going to have on policies and restrictions that come down on you through that megaregion? And what piece of that financial pie are you going to get when you're in New Hampshire? Sprawl. So high-speed rail is a #1 building block of megaregions. High-speed rail is designed to fail. It is designed to take your transportation dollars and sink them. We don't have high-speed rail anywhere in the United States. It's expensive, very, very expensive. We don't have it anywhere. But you know, in California, they're allotting billions of dollars to it. Well, we were supposed to have a line by 2020. And they said, you know, I don't think we're going to make that. I think we're going to make it by maybe 2033. And they said, you know, I don't think we're going to make that either. I think we maybe put it out a little bit. But you know what? The people are getting restless. If the people voted on it, they just done a poll. If the people were to vote again on high-speed rail, they would vote it down, because they know that it is taking a huge portion of their transportation dollars and giving them nothing. So the California Department of Transportation decided that they would, or the High Speed Rail Commission, decided that they would try and get something built from Fresno to Bakersfield. Fresno, you're not laughing because you live in New Hampshire, but let me just tell you, that is from nowhere to nowhere, but it's flat. easy, and it's still not there. This is designed to fail. You want to see what it looks like? You want to see what it looks like when you have jurisdictional boundaries broken and regional government? Take a look at the EU. I was just speaking at a global governance conference, an international conference, with the president of the Czech Republic, Václav Klaus. We were both speakers at this conference, and he said that he said the Czech Republic did everything they could to get their freedom from the Soviet Union, and they were so thrilled to finally make it through that bitter fight. And now they're enthralled to the EU, to Brussels. That's their reality. That's regional governance. So, here we are. We're looking at livable communities, sustainable communities, community partnerships, one planet communities. This is what it looks like. Unelected boards and commissions, loss of sovereignty, and private property rights. Now, you know what? The United Nations has a policy on land. And they came up with that in their 1976 commission. They had a convention. They had the UN Convention on Human Habitat. That's where you live. You think you live in a city, it's human habitat. It's what's called Habitat 1. They said land cannot be treated as an ordinary asset, controlled by the market. No. Land is too important for that. Private land ownership. Private land ownership is a principal accumulation of wealth and contributes to social inequity. And therefore, public ownership of land, public ownership of land is indispensable. This is where we're going with this. And you'll see it locally with restrictions and controls on what you can do with your property. So if you have doubts about communitarian law in the United States, take a look at the 2005 Kelo decision. That's where your Supreme Court said, well, it didn't say that I could take your land and give it to you, because that was already redevelopment. No, what they said is that, well, they kind of remade the Fifth Amendment of the Constitution that says that you are entitled to just compensation for your property when it is taken by your government for a public use. What did they do in 2005, your Supreme Court? They redefined public use to anything that made your municipality more money than what was there already. It's all for the common good. It's all for the common good, and what the common good is whatever we say it is, right? This is how it works. 16% of New Hampshire is owned by the government, federal, state, and local government. That's not nearly enough, because the Wildlands Project is a plan to remove human beings and human activity from rural and suburban areas. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, nobody's getting me out of my rural area. I've got my well. I'm doing fine out here. I've got my farm. Well, I live in a rural county. We have 1,384 miles of rural roads in my county. And our supervisors 2 years ago said that they were only going to be paving 150 miles of those roads. The rest of those roads are going to be pulverized and turned to gravel. You think that's going to have any impact on your property value, on your land use when you can't get to your property or bring your goods to market? And how about closure of postal services, post offices? And how about monitoring your well? Well monitoring. You think you own that water? You don't own that water, that's for the common good. And how about all the services that you expect out in a rural area being restricted because why? Well, this is what our county told us. They said, We are further handicapped by a federal funding system that favors more urban, populated areas. Doesn't matter how many miles of roads you have, it's dependent on your population.